All right, yeah.
All right. So we don't need this.
Questions? 1 to 4?
Sure.
Okay.
Always question. In 4, coming down,
Yep.
I've discovered that I don't know what to do. Do the elbows come out, or do they stay in and the arms out, or what?
You keep the armpits open.
Well, yes, yeah,
So you're right. You get up to this point,
yes,
and as you're going down, you're twisting down. So your elbows are going to have to spread a little.
To the
Just
side of
don't
the-
overdo it.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. So they come. You start on the sideline. They spread as much as they have to, and then as you go out, you're beginning
Yeah.
the straightening and the twisting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is it doesn't come in this way.
Oh, okay.
So
Just down.
yeah, you are bending. Notice that my hands are starting to come in, but it's very subtle.
Gotcha.
So it's a subtle curve down and then out.
Okay.
And your arms just twisting out as you're going down, is that right?
Yep. So actually, this is the twisting in.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the twisting out.
Okay. So by twisting in, that means your hands are turning slightly so that your pinkies are coming closer to each other.
Actually, your thumbs are coming in towards the center line.
Your thumbs are coming in.
Uh-huh.
Ah,
So remember that the twisting can be either in with the thumbs in or in with the little fingers in. And it is
Okay.
not the same all the time.
well, isn't that just hunky dory?
So you have to be involved with all of these movements. You have to have intent.
Coming up, you're twisting out.
Yep.
At that point there, does the twist out change direction? Because you're twisting out this way,
Right.
and then you're still twisting out even as the elbows sink down to bring everything
To
into the
bring the
sidelines.
thumbs out. The elbows going down.
I guess it's just a very far out. You're out, all the way. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I get it.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
You're in all the way down to here, and then you start out and you keep on going out. In.
Oh, and then the thumbs come in.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm gonna change the camera. I don't know
Okay,
if you can.
Mhm.
great. Yeah.
Is that clear, Bill?
Yeah, I had the same, yes.
Okay. Well, believe me, I understand. I've been there. I don't think you can ask a question that I haven't, well, I'm sure you can ask a question I haven't heard yet, but I've heard an awful lot of them, so. Good. Other questions? Concerns, breakthroughs?
I find it like energetically, the cloth fold doesn't feel like it's really pumping energy the same way as the quad squat.
Mm.
Should they be?
No, they're not going to feel the same. They're not
Yeah.
going to be the same because they are different.
Right.
And we're going to add a different one today.
Very good.
Um, with the quaff fold, we're working with a smaller range of motion,
Right.
and
Mhm.
therefore not less opening and closing, but a more a tighter opening and closing, if you will.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else, Bill or Joanne?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Can you before you sit down, can you just do one repetition of each movement and go over the breathing?
Ah.
I want to make sure I'm breathing in the right,
Whoa.
in on the right stuff and out on the right stuff.
That's a lot.
Adam always asks the questions, the rest of us don't.
Sure. So you have an inhale and an exhale, an inhale, exhale, 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 inhale.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else for anybody at the moment? Okay.
You asked.
Oh, no. Fine. Listen,
Go for it, Bill.
Yeah, nothing.
I'm delighted to have questions. Means you're thinking about something.
Oh, boy.
So now we're going to have more fun. So movement 5. What is the purpose of movement 5? We did almost the same exact hand and arm movement when we did movement 2 that we're going to do in movement 5. But there are some differences. Here you will be not be bending forward and back. You will be staying upright the whole time. although eventually there is a spine bend as part of the movement. At the beginning level, when your hands come up your body, you want to feel on your skin where your central channel is. And the central channel in the body goes right down the middle of the body, from the perineum right up through the throat notch. Your central channel actually is not on your skin, it's in the middle of your body. But what's going to happen progressively over time is you will feel more deeply into the body. But when you begin, you can't do that. So you feel it on your skin. And then the next thing you know, at some point, all of a sudden from the skin, you're going to be inside a little bit. And over more time, you're going inside the body a little bit more, and then a little bit more, until finally, when you're doing this motion, you'll actually be moving energy up and down your central channel. It would be unrealistic to think that you can get to the central channel when you first start. Certainly if you're a beginner. If you're an experienced practitioner through other Qigongs, you should already know how to feel your central channel, and you should already be able to access it. And so that's what you would do. Now, the first thing about this is that it is some way when you are feeling, somewhat like when you're feeling your etheric body. Here, there are two steps you want to go through. First, you want to feel that when your hands are on the central area of your etheric body, that you're also touching your skin. In this case, you're going to be touching your skin right up the center of your torso. But when you go inside the body about 1/2 inch, which is really not very much, you have a layer of qi called the Wei qi, the guardian qi. And that is where you are actually going to feel that you're moving something along. So I might just say, when we begin, we talk about the Wei qi as covering the entire surface of the body. Actually, it is just underneath the outer layer of the skin. It's not outside the skin. So just so we're clear about that. That your hand, after it's gone past the skin and your mind is inside your body, then it can connect the Wei qi. Now, why is the Wei qi important? The Wei qi is the place in your body that connects every acupuncture point in your entire body. So by actually getting the Wei qi to move, you then connect to whatever the Wei qi is connected to inside your body. And if you do it over the central channel, which is the place that every energy in your body moves through, and you start stimulating that, you will in effect stimulate every single acupuncture point in your body simultaneously. But that's not going to happen because you wave your hand over it. This is going to happen because you go in a little bit and literally move the Wei qi. This is not the same thing as just going up and down your skin, because you're feeling and moving a little bit inside. In the beginning, again, it's unrealistic for a beginner to expect that they are going to feel the Wei qi. Traditionally, you would have gone through Dragon and Tiger, energy gates, the marriage of heaven and earth, spiraling energy bodies, and bend the bow, and would therefore be able to feel the Wei qi in your body with no problem. If you haven't done all that, just accept that it's going to take a little bit of time. Before your mind can penetrate your body enough that you can get the sense of what it's like for your hand to grip the Wei Chi and move something inside. It will be a very practical sensation. A bit like an elevator going up and down. So I'm going to show you movement 5, but we're going to approach it in our usual step-by-step way. But just so you see, perhaps this will help understand, although this begins to be very internal. So So, not too much there, is there?
Easy.
So, one of the things to think about, because the movements of 2 and 5 sort of look similar. Obviously, 5 is not as large, but basically the difference is that in 2, you are roughly having the same cross of the hands and the wrists at the dantian, but here you are opening all the way out to this point. And notice that my hands are facing out into, and then back in. And I'm doing a cross squat in that, which can be, if you go online and look at Paul, the guy from England, Paul Cavell, thank you. When he does this, he goes down here, okay? And you could do that. That's not unreasonable as long as you're able to do everything else you're supposed to be doing in there. But with 5, looking at just at the arm movement, it's different in that you're bending in until the hands come only halfway up, about halfway up. And then they rise and circle out. That's the end of the extension. The bending in comes halfway up the center. And then the extending out goes to here. So the terminals, the changeover points from extension and bend are completely different. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is to do that. Do a couple of movements. Well, do 4 of 2, and then try this movement of 5. So from the middle out, back into the middle. Okay. Bill, don't start to separate your arms right away. So when you cross at the dantian, they continue together until you separate, moving the energy out to the sides. Yep, better. Now just try the arm movement of 5. Joanne, I would say that you're going maybe a little bit high before you start to separate, but
Oh, okay.
we're going to be working on this more, but just a passing note.
Okay.
Otherwise, looks fine. Good. Okay. Okay. Sit down. Any questions there? Just at the moment.
Not yet.
So the next thing that we want to look at is that you have to condense your body. You could metaphorically say your chi becomes denser. Everything we've done so far has been more with the body being expansive, having space inside of it. So what are you going to have to do to make this happen? You're now going to have to work a little bit with your qua. Since we haven't really done things with opening and closing the qua, which is more a part of the advanced level of gods, and also, of course, part of heaven and earth and every other energy arts Qigong. If you can open and close your qua, then that's what you want to do. But beside that, there is something else. Previously, your body was kind of opening and closing like a big ball. If you want to tighten your body, what you want to do is shrink the ball, and with that, every part of your body is going to pull on and become more tightly connected to every other part of your body. So what does that mean? So when you think about, say, movement 2, because that's really one of the larger, more open. The qua is opening and closing. We're getting a whole large, big ball range of movement there. When we talk about condensing, what happens is that the ball shrinks. And now the opening and closing is much smaller within that. So that actually what happens is that you increase the strength and power of your chi. Nothing to it. This is one that will take a little time or a lot of time.
Be real.
And on this new basis, you're going to be opening and closing. And so how do you do that? When you stand, when you stand, by tucking the pelvis a little under, you should also feel your feet being pulled right into your pelvis. And that's purely mechanical. If something is attached to your pelvis, a tuck can lift it. So your feet are coming up. And by doing this rolling under, you're going to discover that the top of your body is going to come right into your pelvis as well. So some of you have worked on the C curve. And so this will be more review for you. But for those of you who haven't, this begins to be really important. So what this is talking about, what I'm talking about here, is that now you're going to want to find, how do I tuck my pelvis in a way, roll it under, that it pulls my feet up into my pelvis, but also begins to extend the lower part of the spine. So it's just a little tuck under. And so just do that for a moment. Just stand up and if you can feel that sense of doing that. Good. Phil, turn sideways to me so I can see what you're doing. You too, Joanne.
Yeah. No, not far enough away.
So, Bill, I think you need to get more of a tuck under. Yep. You want to not thrust the knees way forward, but tuck the pelvis. So don't go back, Joanne. You're going, I can see your weight moving back. You want to go down and tuck the pelvis under. Because you are, when you're doing this, there is a closing of the quad that's occurring, at least partially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So you may want to, if you haven't done this before, you may want to practice this. And maybe also with another part in a minute. But anybody have a question about that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. You've done it before.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd done it before a little bit, but it's been a long time. So your spine actually feels straighter when you do that at the lower spine?
Yep.
So,
You want to definitely feel that it's pulling your spine because it's beginning to open space.
yeah, yeah, that gets right at the source of my back problems.
Mm.
Exactly. And this can help your back problems. It helps mine anyway.
Good.
So keep in mind that your pelvis is right in the center of your body. It is kind of the main control valve for all bodily movement. For one reason, it is the biggest thing you have, and everything follows it because of its size. When we're doing this, we have a second issue. When you tuck your pelvis, you have to make sure that your feet are comfortably on the floor and that they're not moving about. So that includes not moving your weight on your feet. You're trying to keep your weight centered as you do this at this point. Again, when you tuck your pelvis, it is pulling the soles of your feet up until you kind of feel it going into your pelvis. If you do that, this will make your legs very connected to your pelvis and to your upper body. The purpose of this is that it is going to give your spine a stable platform to rest on. So one of the things to be aware of when you're doing this is that there is a real difference between actually finding that tuck in the spine and in the hips and feeling the feet being pulled up than just going down. That's two different things. We do use just dropping into our base level, but then the tuck is something else. Okay, so you want to make sure you don't just fall into just dropping your pelvis and not tucking it. If you're just having your pelvis be down, there is a little bit of room where your sacrum can wiggle all over the place, and you're not exactly connected to your feet. However, when you do the tucking, it fixes the sacrum in place, and therefore it is not going to wobble. As in, for an example, one of the major problems that chiropractors and osteopaths do with that is a huge chunk of the American population suffers from, at one time or another, an unstable sacrum. And that's where your sacrum, instead of sitting evenly with your spine, or it just moves more than it ought to. And the result is back pain, but you can stabilize the sacrum. If you can stabilize the sacrum, then back pain can go away. So you want to make sure as a part of this that by having your legs going into the sacrum and spine, that you make sure that what is coming from your legs, the chi, the motion, and the nerve flow are going straight to your spine. If you're just kind of loose, it could be that when it goes up to your pelvis, it gets scrambled. And the next thing you know, vertebrae start popping out of place. This is to actually get the nerve signals in your legs to arrive at your spine without any distortions. And distortions eventually end up in vertebrae going out of place. Distortions eventually end up in back pain. And if you want to make your spine perform to do athletics or long-term thinking or sitting for meditation for long periods, then the signals in your spine have to be regular or they will mess up whatever you're trying to do. So in order to open up the top of your spine, the head and neck need to extend and bend in crane's neck. And I know all of you have heard me do this before, but I'm going to do it again. So very often when we start talking about an extension and bend of the head, people will just drop their head, and you can hear what that does. Already it's affected not only my breathing, but my talking. But what you want to do is have the head and neck extend and bend. And if you do that, then it doesn't affect your breathing and it doesn't affect your speaking even to very much extent at all. So in addition to the tuck of the spine, we want to have the head and neck also going out and a little forward so that it begins to open the upper part of the spine. So just try that so that I can see that you really know how to do that. You don't have to do the tuck with it at the moment. You can just do the head. So don't lean the shoulders forward.
Okay.
Just extend the head and neck. May lift the shoulders a little, but it shouldn't do much. So, Bill, when you start, go straight out first, not forward. That's
Okay,
so what you're doing is that,
yeah,
and you want to do this.
okay,
Let that head go up and out.
okay.
Don't lead with the chin, lead with the top of the head. That's better. Don't take your chin away. Don't get rid of your chin, just don't lead with your chin. So Bill, really think about your head going straight up and then forward. It's better. You want to feel the vertebrae in the neck really opening up. And it's a good thing to do what I did when I demonstrated this a minute ago. Take your wrist or your fist and put it into your throat. And try seeing if when you go forward, you're impacting your voice or not. Joanne, don't lean forward. Just
Lean
do.
more on that one. Yeah, I felt that.
Okay, good. It's a little hard to isolate this, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I'm seeing your whole spine extending up. I'd like you to have more of a sense of isolating the neck and extending it.
Talking to me?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Can you feel a difference in that?
Yeah. I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Don't push the chin forward, though. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
Because what I'm seeing you do is this.
yeah.
It isn't. You want that to go up and then a little forward. Yeah. Yeah, good, good. Okay, so again, another piece to work on. I'll talk about all of these pieces at the end here. Let's see how far we're going to get today. I'm doing pretty well. So in connection with sacrum tuck, this becomes a movement which we call a C curve. It's related to the Taoist spine stretch and energy gates, except that the whole spine moves at once in and out of the curve. During the bend into the curve, you're opening spaces in the posterior side of the spine between the vertebrae. And as you straighten the C curve, you open spaces between the vertebrae in the anterior side of the spine without losing the spaces on the posterior side. So clearly those spaces are extremely small. And I don't know whether you've practiced the Taoist spine stretch or not. If you know that, it would be a bad thing to work on a bit, simply because it really helps you become sensitive and aware to what that feels like. Because for most people, at first, to feel what's happening on the back of their spine, the posterior side, may not be too difficult because we know where that is. We can feel that. We can reach back and feel that. But the anterior side of the spine, it's buried deep in the body. And we don't often think about that. But you can feel what's happening on each side of the spine with some practice. But you have to work on it. So what we want to do, of course, now is to think about the C curve. And I will say that I recommend that when you're working on this, that you don't just jump to the C curve and not do the sacrum tuck and the crane's neck and really be clear about that, because you need both. And often one of them will get lost if you don't really clearly feel those. So when you're doing the C curve, you really want both of those things to happen at once. So the C curve doesn't have to be huge. You don't need to do this to do a C curve. It is the primary things, of course, are the tuck of the pelvis and the lift and extension of the head, so that you feel a stretch both in the top of the spine and the base of the spine. So that begins to open it, so the energy can move more freely through the spine. So you want to find, how can I go into this C curve and come out of that C curve, and do it somewhat slowly and feel what's happening to your spine, okay? So try that. Because, and we're doing this, I'll just say, because you have to have the C curve present in movement 5. It's actually present in the other movements too, but we'll get to that later on. But it is an essential part of movement 5. You can't do movement 5 without it.
Mhm.
Don't lose your either part. Make sure you keep. No. So you kept Crane's neck, but you lost the pelvis tuck. So what was happening for you was, as you did this, this went back. No, it goes under and forward.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I could feel kind of the thighs and glute muscles just tightening up as I tried to do it, you know?
Yeah. And actually, they can relax eventually as you go into that.
Mm.
Good, Bill. And keeping that chin out of the way.
Yeah.
Sure. So Joanne, you're doing what Ad was doing. Your crane's neck looks pretty good, but you were pushing your pelvis back instead of tucking it under.
Right, but I can separate them out fine. It's doing them together again.
Absolutely, absolutely. So do you feel like you're shifting your weight back when you do that?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to protect my knees. I think that's like, because we've done this before.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
And I think that's my, this is really the first time I've done a lot of practice standing, right? Yeah. And so I think that for me, I can feel that connect. I can feel that. Challenge.
Absolutely. So don't overdo, and as your knees improve.
Right, I will. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that is what's happening, particularly with the tuck at that moment.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit down on this one for now. Yeah.
Sure.
But I know what I'm trying to do, and I have done it before.
Yeah. So Bill, you're also getting the crane, a bit of the crane's neck, but the pelvis tuck is not occurring with it. There, that's better. A little hard for me to see with your top on because I can't see your see your pelvis very well. Thank you. Disadvantage of Zoom.
Yeah.
Good, good, Bill. Okay, no, you actually, I think you're doing fine. It's very small, but it's there. So that's good. Thank you. You have a question? Okay.
Sorry, your comment about trying to keep the posterior, not closing the posterior while you're opening the anterior is important.
Yeah, yes, it is. And
Because
it's not easy.
it's not easy. It's not easy. I heard Adam say it was sort of tightening up muscles and stuff, and that's real hard to let go of, but I think that's part of the key.
Yep, it is. And of course, my favorite word, practice.
Well, if you aren't doing it, you aren't doing it. So
That's exactly right.
True.
Exactly right. Either of you have a question? No. Okay, sit down for a minute. Let your back rest.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So. Um, when you think about just kind of what the movement is in 2 and 5, they're really basically the same. You've got these two windmills going around, if you will. But the way in which we do them is very, very different. So when you go into and we'll work on the transition next time. I'm not going to get into that today very much, but there is that condensing that has to happen as you're going into the transition, so that as you're doing this movement, notice that when I'm bringing the energy up, while the connection is made in front of the dantian, the body continues to bend as you raise the energy up the center of the body. And then when it reaches as high as it can go, eventually the crown of the head, you begin to straighten, which takes the energy out into the side channels and down and in to the qua and into the dantian and up the center and out and down the side channels. So what else do I want to say here? But movement 6, this is simply giving you a sort of a look ahead. When we get to movement 6, actually, movement 6 is going to go in the opposite direction. And it has different terminals of change. But it will be taking the energy up the side channels and down the center. Okay, so we'll get to that, but let's stay with 5 for the moment. Later on in the program, we'll be showing you what you do with your spine in more detail, because if your legs are connecting to your spine, what is your spine doing? How does it want to connect to your legs? So that will come a little bit later. But right now, let's just understand what this basic movement is. What you have done previously is that, remember, you closed the pelvis down, and we had the psoas muscle and the pelvis really connect to the legs. But now you have to consider something. From this stable closed position, you're going to close and open a little in a very condensed way. When you normally do openings and closings, you're more or less going to go into what it does, and then you go out to the boundary, and then into whatever it does and out to the boundary. The only difference is that now we're specifying and condensing the area that the opening and closing is moving in. The part of your pelvis tucking and the head extending is what is going to unify your body. But now, within that, you have to open and close to move energy through your body. So just to be clear about these two things. So here's the motion. So as we're coming down, closing movement, ending movement 4, we're condensing and closing the qua. And then we begin to twist in and raise the energy. And then we begin to straighten and twist out to this point, and that's moving the energy out and down, despite the fact that you're not going all the way down, nor are your arms going all the way up. So this is because you have condensed the energy, you're moving it with much greater power. And so this movement doesn't have to go up to here to move the energy up. It simply goes into the center and moves it up. And you feel that, and you're doing at the same time. Notice that I am doing the seeker. And then you're opening the front of the spine as you go out to here. So you're twisting in, connect, dantian, wrist cross. So you're going to connect that point. If you remember that there is a place 3 fingers width above the wrist crease, where you have an energetic point on both sides of the wrist, opposite each other. And your intention is to connect those 4 points and use those 4 points to raise the energy in front. And then you're going to send the energy out, and it's the Laogong point in the palm that sends the energy down, down the side channels, down to the feet. And then twisting in, connect to those wrist points. And if you take your hands and you do that connection with the Laogong points and then flow right on up your arms to that wrist point, if you find that place, it will make the Laogong point go buzz.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can find it because it's a very present, powerful connection. One of the other things is that the bend and stretch are not actually as large as we're doing in the other postures. So the bend, notice that when I do, if I'm here, let me get to here. If I do this bend, my arms are bending, but they're here. They're not here. Okay. They are actually here. So the bend is not that great. And of course, the straighten will be whatever you establish with that. Did you catch that? Okay.
Mhm.
So let's try this. So I'll do it with you for a moment. So just do the last movement of 4. So you're condensing down and you continue. So your bend goes until you get to this point. Your hands, your wrists are about mid chest, maybe I would say, although you're doing that C curve. And then as you straighten slowly, the arms go up a little bit and then out and down. And twist, bending, connect the palms, connect the wrists, come up, and then out. Good. So as you're doing this part of the movement, you want to feel the energy going out into your side channels and down, roughly to the qua. And this brings it into the dantian and up the central channel. And then out into the sides and down into the dantian and up the center and out and down. Just keep going for a minute. That's good, Bill. Just don't bend too far forward.
I'm sorry.
Just do the C curve. Hey, you're looking good, Adam. Sorry. I didn't mean to ignore you. That's coming along, Joanne. That's good. Don't overdo. Bill? Can you hear me? Just shake your head. Okay. I'm gonna change the camera. I think that the thing I wanted to say to you, Bill, was to think about keeping the movement rounded, because what I'm feeling I see is you're getting to here and then it's just going out. You're finding, where can I get the energy up to at least my throat notch? Maybe I can get it to the crown of my head. And now notice my arms still go up a bit as they go out, so the energy can curve down into the side channel. So you don't want to go here, you want to go here. Have a little arc in that to keep it rounded. Okay? And then I think just to remind everybody, this is not a qua squat. This is a C curve.
The curve, yeah.
They are not the same.
Mhm,
So don't overdo
mhm,
the curve.
mhm.
It's perfectly all right for it to stay small. So anybody have a question at the moment? Okay, relax. So when you're twisting out and in, what should happen in your qua is that when you go out, your qua expands, and when you twist in, your qua contracts. Because that area, the area of your qua has been shrunk. Remember, we're condensing it as we go into this movement. The motion is not going to be as large as if your pelvis were just loose. You have bones that can move everywhere, but the purpose is actually to start tightening up and condensing the energy flows that are in the body, and not having it be kind of loose, but have it be right to the targeted channels. Now we are going to continue working on this idea of bending your spine a little bit in the middle, and then from the middle to the top and bottom. So that, of course, is the C curve. So you want to make sure that as you're doing the movement, that you round the back as you're going down, and straightening it from your qua as you straighten up. Also, nothing else to think about, but of course, your hands are continuously, particularly coming up the center, you're feeling that energy touching the body. Right now, if you can feel it touch your skin, that's great. We're not necessarily trying to go deeper. If you can, great, but don't feel you have to push it. If you can touch the skin, that's great. We can read that. There's always extra information in here you can read when you get the notes.
Mhm.
One of the things to stay alert to is if you have something that's causing somehow for there to be breaks or interruptions anywhere along the way, either in the sense of the movement or the energy, but in ultimately, particularly the energy. So if you feel that, one of the things you have to do sometimes is slow it down and find how you can work through those points and not force it through, but feel how you can release it and allow the energy to flow there. That. So one of the things, of course, here is we've been talking about the arms, and it's very easy to get very focused on what are these guys doing up here. But what's happening here is really important. And so remembering that when you begin this movement, that you're condensing the qua, that you're tightening that. And then within that, as you're doing the movement, there is a lifting in the qua, but it's not what we do here,
Mhm.
have that big lifting and closing. It's very tight and small, but the intention is to increase the power of the energy movement. The reason for it to, the qua to actually stretch open more is to facilitate the energy being able to go from the middle of your body to your left and right channels. That is the function. That's the reason why it's done. It's not just to do a move.
Mhm.
You extend your body, it's opening up, stretching, and as you bend, it's shrinking slowly. In the ideal scenario, your wrist will cross as you're closing. But if, as you're doing it, you find that you can't actually get to the cross of the wrist yet, it's perfectly all right to begin. Let's say that as you're going into this, you find that the best you can really do is here. Well, okay, then maybe as you come up, you can get a little closer. And as you continue to practice, you will eventually get to the cross of the wrist. Because you want that to happen down here so that it lifts the energy up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mhm.
Just one or two things to remember.
That's why I'll send you the notes. I'll let you read that. Okay. So the point is that you want the energy to rise up to the crown of the head evenly, but you may not feel it going that far at first. Let it grow slowly as you practice. And if at any point there is pain in this movement, then pause. When you reach pain, that's 100%. So based on the 70% rule, you have to have stopped somewhere before that. So if you have pain, use that to remind you to make the movement a little bit smaller and keep it within the 70% range. As you go on with this and you do it a lot, you won't feel any contractions with your hand. When your hand makes the maximum movement they can, don't have the idea to push to anything. The idea is to release what is blocked. The idea is not to try and push through a block. So I'm not expecting that you're going to get all of this in a week. This is a lot. So we may spend some time with movement 5 here, just on the basics before we progress on. But as you're practicing, I really suggest that you follow the steps we've gone through today and work through them. And don't feel you have to do all of them right away or every day. Start with 1 or 2 at the beginning and use that in your practice. And then a couple of days later, if that's feeling comfortable, add a little more. And gradually we'll work into this. But we obviously have some new things to begin to really be clear about here. Not the least of which are condensing and the C-curve. So I think I want to say that, it would be good if you could try to practice at least 20 minutes a day, but give yourself a day or 2 off too. Don't get too rigid about it, but try to do some regular practice. And I think most of you do. I'm probably speaking to the choir, but I'll do it anyway. Cool. Questions?
Next week.
Next week.
Next week. Yeah, right. That's when we bring them.
Okay. Good class, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, David.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Have a good week, Bill.
You too.
Hope you're
Take care,
feeling
Bill.
all right.
Yeah.
Good.
Gonna use the bathroom real quick, David.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, me too. I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay. Take care, Bill.
Yeah, you too.
Joanne's back.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm back.
So any particular questions you guys have at the moment? You haven't been able to practice much, I know.
I have not been able to practice much, and I do have to say with Gods, I'm very conscientious about reading the notes, checking back on the recording if I feel I need to. So that's where I feel like I'm keeping up. I do have to say though that it was interesting when we were doing the C curve. I immediately, wanted to begin to go into some of the postures because that's kind of like where I, where I most feel them and where I most practice them. So I thought that was good. That I was like, oh yeah, no, well, wait a minute. Yeah, but I have not been able to do it. And I did do more physically today in this class than I have in quite a while. I feel okay, but I don't feel like I can get up and try anything else. But I feel like I'm at that point, like I said, that, kind of starting on Monday, really beginning to feel a better
Good.
Ability to be balanced on both legs, both knees. Not quite there yet, but beginning to.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
So you're absolutely right. The C curve is continuously flowing in the form. The other thing that I was thinking about with this, of course, is that condensing is happening,
Yes.
particularly in the Wu style,
Yes.
not so much in the Yang. That's part of what happens in the growth of the Wu. As you condense, everything gets smaller.
Yes.
And tighter,
yeah.
And more powerful.
Right. I mean, I definitely felt, and I know when you talk in the Gods class, you're talking to the whole class,
Yep.
But kind of feel that the work that we have been doing in this class,
Yep.
work in the form, really, I don't think I felt as overwhelmed by all the things you were saying this morning that other people do, because it's so new to them, and for Adam and I, it is not new. So
That's absolutely right.
that makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you guys will deal more easily, certainly at least through the first year or so of this.
That it's really challenging. Thanks. Thanks for the warning.
Well, in reality.
Yeah.
Well, no, yeah. And I mean, I don't mind the challenge. I also enjoy, or I appreciate being able to put all of this together in a different way, which is what we're doing.
And that's, of course, part of the intention here.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that you understand that.
Yeah.
So Adam has to move for you.
Yes, that's right. My vicarious classes here. Well, the
That's all
first one
right.
was not. I really did move the first one this time, which is great.
So do either of you have questions about doing the C curve in the form?
I don't like questions. It's just, I find it's difficult to keep at it consistently.
Yep,
Mhm.
it is difficult.
I think the C curve is difficult with 2 feet on the ground. Never mind when you're now stepping from posture to posture and
Right, right.
doing other things,
Maybe
Yeah.
weighted on one foot.
Right. right. So I find, especially the tuck of the pelvis is
Mhm.
the most challenging part.
Yep.
As you're weighted on one foot or transitioning between postures.
Mhm. And those are all good awarenesses. I
Yeah.
mean, that's exactly what you need to be aware of. And I think when we start talking about the form, particularly with the C curve, it is much smaller often
Mhm.
than what you're doing in God's, for
Okay.
instance. You don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you have both motions need to occur, you don't often have time to make much of a movement. So
Right.
not trying to make necessarily a full C curve,
Okay.
but understanding that it is going to be condensed,
Mhm.
it'll be
Mhm.
smaller. Sometimes it's all there. Sometimes you've got time to do that. But even in the very beginning, when we think about those first postures, you don't have, I mean, if you slow it down, yeah, now you've got time to play with that. And here, you've got time to get in,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't always have that. And if you are moving more quickly, you may
Right.
be even smaller.
Right.
Mhm.
But it really needs to be there. I think it's where it gets more difficult sometimes is going into something like play peepaw where,
Right.
oh, I have to do that there because it feels like we want to go this way,
Mm-hmm.
but it isn't. You want to go this way there.
Right.
Yeah.
So why don't you try just playing through, really focusing on doing the C curve as best you can.
Okay.
And if you can, make a note in your mind of where there are problems for you.
Okay. Sure. That good there, Joanne?
That's great, Adam. Thank you. Yep.
Change that. Okay, so was. Do you have any comment, Joanne?
I had a hard time seeing the C curve.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, like when I was saying before that I thought of the C curve during Gods, I particularly think of it during Play Peepaw. And so I particularly was watching you and I didn't, your head felt very still stiff or straight up and not crane's neck.
Okay.
And the pelvis comes and goes.
Huh. Okay.
And what I would suggest is slowing way down
Okay.
so that you have the time to do it. And then, after a while you can speed that up, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
It is not easy. How do you get the C curve into here
Right.
and have something, to do?
Yeah.
And it is difficult. Now you're putting in a difficult element,
Yeah.
and it's subtle because you don't have time.
Right. Right.
But both ends need to be there.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. That's good feedback because internally it feels like you're doing it. Or maybe you have the intent to do it.
You have the intention, absolutely.
So maybe that's it. You have the intention, but yeah, because
I think something, David, you said a while ago has been helpful, which is occasionally practice in front of a mirror. And then I see, and then maybe I see what I saw in you, but I see in myself. It's like, oh, wait a minute, my head's too straight up here or whatever, which of course means stopping occasionally depending on where the mirror is.
Right.
Or what,
Yeah.
but I have found that helpful.
Yeah. That's
that's a good point. Yeah.
drawback to not having the mirrors in the school because
Right.
then you
Right.
can really see what you're
Then
doing.
you could see it, the big mirrors. Right.
But
Well, with everything with Zoom, you can just do a Zoom meeting of yourself and
Well,
Yeah.
that's
record
true.
it and go back and
Record it,
yep.
record it and look at it. That's true.
yeah,
And that's a good thing to do.
yeah.
I hadn't thought about that, but you're right.
Because-
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I haven't done it for years, but I did for a while do some recording of people in class and then just play it
Look
back.
back.
So that, they can kind of see and
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
it's a good thing. I mean, that's probably one of the things about with Zoom is that when I'm recording, every once in a while you'll see yourself
yeah,
for a while.
Right, now you can see yourself, right? You can. Yeah, true.
But I mean, it's not that you're not on the right track.
no, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I find the tuck I find challenging,
Yeah.
especially. I mean, more so than the crane's neck.
Yep.
Especially moving posture to posture. Because it feels like when you're on that one leg, you're kind of there. There's not a whole lot of tuck that you can do without forcing something.
Mhm. But that also has to do with where your weight is on the foot. Because if you let the weight go forward,
Mhm.
then you get into a thrust of the hip rather than a tuck. If you can go towards the heel, then you can begin to tuck a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that really does.
Yeah.
Helpful, yeah, right.
And when you're on the weighted foot, you want the energy usually to drop through that foot. So you want
Mhm.
pressure slightly towards the heel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good tip.
Yep.
And when you're on 1 foot,
Yeah.
or I guess you're never there on 1 foot, but weighted on 1 foot,
Yep.
does the two sides of the pelvis tuck equally? Or is that, I mean, is that getting way too into it at this point?
Good question.
That's a perfectly good question. Yes, really, the pelvis doesn't tilt from side to side. No,
Right, it shouldn't be rocking
no.
like that. It should be
Yep.
tucking equally. And so when you tuck, there should be
Yeah.
a slight compression in your abdominal wall and cavity here.
Yeah, and the difficulty is in that our tendency is to tighten up the abdominals in order to get that tuck.
Okay,
And
we don't, yeah,
that's not what we're trying to do, because anytime you tighten up, you're constricting.
yeah.
So it has to be a letting go more than,
Yeah, I try and I guess create that tuck by really relaxing the muscles in the lower back
yep,
and around the hips and the pelvis,
yep,
right? Because we don't want to kind of crunch down.
no,
Like
no,
we don't want to try. I guess you can't push it down. There's no muscles that do that, but
but you could pull it down maybe.
right.
And I think, the one of the other pieces that, what was I going to say? I forgot. Shoot. What I was going to say was, it might not hurt to go back and do the Dallas spine stretch a little, simply because you're working with it in a different way, but you're in terms of the sequence. Because with the spine stretch, you're working from bottom to top in a sequence as you go into that whole thing. And you're working from bottom to top in a sequence as you open up. And it really helps to increase flexibility in the lumbar and lower thoracic area. And it also, I think, really helps get in touch with what it feels like.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah. it's a good idea.
Cool.
so that would be good to play with.
Okay. Sure.
Just a few things.
A little bit of homework this week. That's all.
20 minutes a day plus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good to see
I'm
you
glad
all.
you're feeling a little better, Joanne.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm really, I'm pleased with, it's not, I mean, I've consulted with my doctor and with my chiropractor, and I'm doing all I can, it's not much. My friends keep saying, get physical therapy, but you can't get physical therapy on your arthritic knee. I need to walk more, but now I feel like I can. So I think that's what recommendation is, now that you're feeling better, trying to get out there. I mean, I have been trying not to, I don't want the muscles to atrophy.
Yeah.
But they're not, I mean, I'm not at that point. There were really only a few days when I just really could barely move, but
Don't overdo.
do it. It'll get better. You may